Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex. And before we get into the new uniform guide, I want to give you guys a pretty hilarious little tidbit of information. Now, the Star Creator Club recruitment announcement was made about a week ago on Wednesday, April 29th. And this was a surprise to most of the Marvel Future Fight players, and especially the Star Agents, because we're not Star Creator Club members. We're Star Agents, and there was no mention of Star Agents, and there was no mention of whether this was going to replace the Star Agent program, or whether they were going to be run side by side, whether we were going to compete in some sort of death match, and then whoever survived at the end would become the Star Creators. But there was a application period from the 29th of April until the 6th of May, which was yesterday. Now, today, the day after the application was over, they decided, Netmarble Monster, whoever's running this glorious program of geniusness, wink wink, decided to post a Star Agent program announcement saying that they would be basically replacing the Star Agent program with the Star Creator Club. So, when you go to apply for the Star Creator Club, guess what you see now that the time is over? You click this and it says, oh, it's closed. Of course it's closed. You ding-dongs took too long to tell Star Agents. So yeah, I may not be getting access to, if there is an APK, for the next update, I may not be getting access to it. So I just want to let you guys know ahead of time. We'll still do our best to react to all of the information and data coming out, and of course the sneak peeks. We'll still have a blast. We'll still have all the premiere information here on the channel. I'm not worried about it, but I just want to let you know in advance. And also, maybe if Netmarble Monster is watching, they want to, fix things for their existing Star Agents. The people like Vader G and Luke Margui and me and a whole whack of other people who have, I don't know, made the game better for years now. Crazy idea that you want to maybe have a little bit of communication with those players. Wild idea. Not even me, just them. Crazy. Anybody, not even one, not even a single Star Agent. Anywho, the uniform upgrade guide, or not uniform upgrade guide, uniform purchase guide. I've got a brand new one. This one, it was made in conjunction with Cool Maxim. Big shout out to him. He helped me tremendously, and I think this is the best one yet. Okay, I think you're gonna love it. It looks beautiful. There's so much information all packed into a tightly boxed area, and we're just gonna talk about it, and I'm gonna explain it to you. Of course, as always, the master guides are available in the description below. They're also available on Discord. Now, some of the other sheets, some of the other pieces of information, like about strikers and stuff like that, are not part of the master guides, because at any given time there's 60 to 90 people viewing the uniform guide. So I strongly recommend that you go file, save copy, and then look at it yourself and not sit on the one that I've made, because it will crash often because there's too many people watching, or watching on it. And yeah, it's just a limitation of Google Docs and Google Sheets. If there's 100 or close to 100 people, you can have that happening a lot. It also makes it harder to edit these things and keep them updated, because sometimes it'll crash while I'm trying to save new information, and then that information won't get saved. So anyways, just letting you guys know where to find it, and also letting you know why not all of the information is being curated in the same place. There's just too many people now, and there's too many sheets as well. The file's a bit too large. So without further ado, let's whip out the new and improved uniform guide. So we've said goodbye to the old uniform guide. I thought it was ugly. I thought it was hideous. We have still kept the ranking for characters as far as Omega tier characters all the way down to, it says legendary twice. This is incorrect already. Oh my God, completely unwatchable, Cynicalex. This should say heroic tier. Yes, I know how to rank my own characters. Wait, no. I made it. Oh no, God, we've made another mistake. Okay, this should be legendary tier. Hilarious. And then this should be heroic tier. I'm gonna fire Cool Maxim. It's okay. Don't worry, guys. I'll take care of this. For you guys. Then we got rare tier and advanced tier. So let's talk about it top to bottom. First off, you're gonna ask, where are all the characters that are not in advanced tier? My answer, they suck too much to be referenced for uniform guides and this kind of thing. We still have the good basic information on the right side. If you're wondering, wait for a better uniform. This basically just means that these characters have uniforms, but for the most part, they are trash. Now, some of these uniforms are listed because they're in the advanced tier, but for the most part, these uniforms cost gold. And also, for the most part, these uniforms are just straight up trash. They just don't do enough for the character. The character is still super weak with their uniform. So it's, buy at your own risk. These uniforms are good for their optional uniform bonuses. So, when you go to a uniform and you check out what the optionals are, the Gamora, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, the Elektra Netflix, and the Phil Coulson Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., those ones pop up more often than not as optionals. And then these are all of the gold cost uniforms. No new uniforms were added for gold cost for the 5-year anniversary. So now that we know why not every single uniform is listed here, we can now start talking about the guide itself. So the guide itself doesn't actually attempt to rank the uniforms themselves amongst each other. I think that's basically an impossible thing to do, to take two uniforms and say, okay, this one is just better than this one. There's too many things involved. I have to know your account, like how many characters you have and what their builds are. I have to know specifically for those two characters, like are they both tier 3, are they both tier 2, etc. I have to know the builds for those characters, whether they're PvE or PvP, and then I also have to know what you want those characters to do when they get those uniforms. I really just can't answer all of those questions in a guide. It's basically impossible. So instead what I did is I reflected the value of the character with their best uniform, which is basically just straight out of the tier list, right? So the tier list is here, and this is the exact same rankings. There's no change in the rankings. But then what I did was I listed the best possible uniform for that character and what the power jump is for that character from their previous uniform or their base kit, if they didn't have a uniform, to what they have now. So take, for example, Apocalypse. Apocalypse did not have a uniform. He just base naked Apocalypse, and then he got Messiah Complex. Messiah Complex is his only uniform. It's also his best uniform, and it is a massive rework. It's a 5 on the scale of 1 to 5. Now, if a character gets a 1, it doesn't mean that the character is bad. See, Nick Fury gets a 1 here. This is talking about how much the uniform improves on the base Nick Fury. The uniform doesn't do very much for Nick Fury. It really doesn't do anything. It doesn't change any of his skills. It just gives him a small buff to all allies as a uniform effect. It's a very, very small upgrade. So that's why the uniform improvement is graded as a 1. So for the most part, characters that get their very first uniform are going to have higher numbers. It's not always the case, but it's usually the case because usually their first uniform represents a massive rework, especially if the uniform was released in the last like 12 months. Now, in the case of characters who have multiple uniforms, again, I've still listed their best uniform, but again, this too would mean that Captain Marvel's endgame uniform is only a small upgrade over her other uniform, her MCU uniform for her original movie debut. That does not mean that her uniform itself, if you have no uniform for her, is a 2 out of 5. It's a 5 out of 5, but it just depends which one you get. So if you don't have any uniform for Captain Marvel, you should know that she is Omega tier regardless. But if you already have this one, then you can sort of consider that this jump, where she cuts her hair and she starts flying, is not as substantial of a jump as other characters and their uniforms. For example, another great example is Jean Grey. Is this uniform better? Yes, situationally better, but it's not a clear-cut improvement over the other uniform. Whereas, on the flip side, Cyclops, Phoenix 5, is a massive upgrade over Marvel Now or Age of Apocalypse. It doesn't really matter which uniform you pick. It is a huge upgrade for him. So it's really important to understand that is what the power jump means. So you can see here for Cyclops, down over here, it's a 4. He gets a massive jump. Almost 5. I tried not to use 5 too many times because I didn't want to overvalue the score and the sort of increase and the rework for uniforms. I know that, we want to buy all uniforms, but we can't afford all uniforms because we don't have billions of crystals. So I tried to keep that 5 reserved for uniforms that just completely blow your mind when you equip them versus having no uniform for the character, or in some cases having the previous uniform. Like even if you had Magneto's previous uniform, if you equip House of X, it's gonna pull your hair back a few inches, right? It's gonna give you the Rihanna forehead. On the flip side, if you get Quicksilver's uniform, is it better? Is Uncanny Avengers better than Marvel Now? Yes, it is better. I would consider anything from 3, 4, or 5 to be, worthy of your investment. A 1 or a 2 really then depends on what you need specifically. A 2 is very situational. A 1 may not be something that you need to purchase at all. So that's where I would sort of rank those things. If you don't care about ABX, do you really need to get Captain Marvel's newest uniform? I don't know. Do you? She can still perform pretty well in PvP with her old uniform from a few months earlier. Jean Grey is another really good example. you know, a lot of people keep asking me which one is better, X-Men Red or House of X. So for Jean Grey specifically, she's the only one that has this sort of differentiation, where I said X-Men Red is for PvP and then House of X is for PvE. This is pretty much the assumption. Of course, your build matters. So if you build her with a CTP of regen, then you've built her for PvP. So if you're going to give her the House of X uniform, it'll make her slightly better for PvE, but it's not going to change the fact that you gave her a CTP of regen, right? So the uniform can only do so much for the character. It's not going to completely transform her in that case, unless you also transform her obelisk or CTP. And then we also added extra notes and key features. So the key features are pretty straightforward. We just tried to highlight the most important things that the uniform gave the character that they didn't already have before. So, you know, Holiday Lady Deadpool, 80% all defense down on the 5th skill. Thanos, he gets a buff on his 3rd skill that he didn't have, and he can insta-cancel his 4th skill. Let's see here. Namor, he gets fire damage on all of his skills, so that's really important. Spider-Man 29 gets accumulation on his 5th skill. I'm not really trying to capture every single detail about these characters' uniforms because, again, that would take forever, and that would put up a lot of space, and that would look really bulky and ugly and annoying. But you just can see at a glance really quickly, okay, like, why is everyone talking about Nimrod's uniform? Okay, so it's Sentinel, he becomes Nimrod. Okay, it's a huge power jump, as according to Cynicalex and Cool Maxim. And then what's the key features? Oh, it's a huge rework, all 5 of his skills. Okay, that seems really good. All right. We can also put here, best all defense down striker currently. And you can say 75% all defense down. There you go. So that's that. And so the extra notes here are just things that don't really matter as far as buying the uniform, but they can be important pieces of information if you're having a tough decision to make. So this one was the first one I made. I had to make it because people will not stop asking me. Deadpool Holiday Lady Deadpool. I understand that everyone wants to buy it. I'm sorry I don't have a better answer for you. These are the first uniforms that are exclusive. These being Deadpool Holiday and Gwenpool Holiday. No, she still does not have her potential. It's ridiculous, but I know. Yeah, so these 2 uniforms are just unavailable. If you don't purchase them, if you didn't purchase them back in Christmas 2019, they're just unavailable. You cannot buy them. It's not a bug. You don't have to do something special in the game. It would be really cool if you had to like unlock the ability to buy them by doing certain content like beating Galactus or some sort of feat. Like they have in Contest of Champions, where you unlock Cavalier, you unlock Uncollected, etc. But no, it's just gone. It's just an exclusivity thing. They're just trying to make people thirst after these uniforms. When this uniform is available in the future, I don't know. Probably my guess now is going to be Christmas 2020. But you should pick it up because it's an absolute god tier upgrade. So in this case, because it's such a jump, it's a 5 compared to any other Deadpool uniform. If you don't have any uniform for Deadpool, you should probably consider just not buying a uniform for Deadpool until then. So that's also what this power jump is trying to tell you. It's obviously not important at all for characters that don't have a uniform, but for characters who have multiple uniforms, like for example Magneto, you would never ever want to buy the Marvel Now uniform unless you're buying it for the optional bonuses for other uniforms, because this is just a head and shoulders upgrade for him. Same thing goes with like Winter Soldier. You wouldn't want to buy any of his older uniforms for the same reason. Same thing goes, well, Hawkeye's cell-shaded uniform is awful garbage. Same thing goes for Colossus, right? If it's not Phoenix 5, you should not be buying any of the previous uniforms unless they are optional uniforms that you're buying for that. So this is basically how the guide works. I hope that you can get enough information out of it to inform yourself and to make a good decision on whether you want to buy a uniform or not. If you're still confused about where a character's power level is, of course, you can just look here for a quick and dirty idea of how, not dirty, but, you know, a quick idea of how good the character is, right? So if you're thinking, okay, do I want to buy Apocalypse's uniform or do I want to buy Namor's? Well, Namor's uniform doesn't buff him as much as Apocalypse's does, and Apocalypse is in the Omega tier, whereas Namor's only in the Mythic tier. Okay, so I think I'm going to get Apocalypse, right? And then you can read the other notes there and see what happens. Oh, but he becomes a villain. Okay, maybe I want that flexibility. If you're still confused, check out the tier list. The tier list always assumes that you have the newest uniform, but you should get the same information or roughly the same information here. And then finally, you should read the extra notes on top of the ones that I've already highlighted for things like, you know, no new uniform since April 2018. I get this question a lot as well, so I just want to highlight it. Some people will put off, basically avoid buying a uniform because they assume that a new one is coming soon. So, you know, it's not necessarily the best idea, but if you're not going to tier 3 Doctor Strange and you know that he's very, very weak until he gets to tier 3, but you know that he hasn't gotten a uniform in 2 years, so he's basically due for a uniform, and he's got tons of looks in the comics, and he's got his movie coming out eventually. Maybe you want to wait, right? If you're really tight on crystals, maybe you want to wait. Same thing goes for someone like Winter Soldier. Good character for sure, but he hasn't gotten a uniform in 2 years, and Winter Soldier and the Falcon presumably should be coming out soon, later this year, or something like that. So maybe you want to just save off, you want to just, stall and not purchase that uniform. So I tried to list those things that are important. But if I missed any extra notes or key features that you think are super vital and important for these characters and for the value of their uniform specifically, hit me up in the comments down below. Hit me up on Discord or Twitter, and I will do my best to continue to update this. And then I will chastise Cool Maxim for making that mistake with the legendary and heroic tier rankings at the beginning of the video. So thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this uniform buying guide helps you, put the best use to your crystals for the uniform sale that's on right now. If you have any other questions, comments down below, etc. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.